selling a bunch of my old whips, and today I am selling this 7-foot 4-inch nylon bullwhip I made sometime, I think, in the beginning of 2021. So my methods have changed a lot. So now I'll show you the physical flaws that this whip has, so if you do buy it, you are not surprised by any of the flaws. So the first thing to mention that I think is really important is this whip is loose. I had not yet learned about braiding tension when I made this whip. Second, of course, this heel knot does not have anything on it. Wrist loop's super loose. It's a 6-plat wrist loop, and then move up. We can just see that the transition is just a nightmare. It's all misshapen. There's some gaps, but I don't think it affects the performance very much. These gaps kind of tapers weird. But if we move on down the thong, of course, it's loose braiding everywhere. And the BBs, it's a really heavy whip. The BBs stop somewhere in this area. This is a new fall. I just replaced it today. A new fall, new cracker. The next obvious thing to mention is the strand crowding that we got up there. That is because this is a 20-plat overlay. I don't know why I felt the need to make it a 20-plat overlay, but I just did. A 16-plat, now knowing what I do know, the 16-plat would have worked just fine. But I didn't know any better because this whip was early on in my whip making career, which is why it is so shabby. It is very primitive, but you know, I was more focusing back then. I was more focusing on the function of my whip, other than the looks. I worried about the looks later, but back then it was just about the function. Next, I'll tell you what to expect when you're cracking this whip. It's very thong heavy because back then I was taking the BBs and I was making my core go well into like the 4-foot mark, 4 or 5 feet. I even had a whip that ended up being 10 feet long, but I had loaded the core with like 5 or 6 feet of BBs. It was one heavy whip. But this whip, since it's very thong heavy, it's kind of awkward. But it can be satisfying because the way I braided it, it's so loose. It kind of just flows. It works somehow. It's a great beginning whip, and I would definitely suggest this piece of junk over any Amazon piece of junk. Because an Amazon piece of junk will get you hurt. This, while not being peak performance, is still a lot better than that option. And a lot cheaper. More bang for your buck, really. More crack for your buck. It can still perform most of those cracks fairly easily. I think where it really excels are flicks because of it being so heavy. But with that being said, since it is heavy, it's harder to change directions. So great for, you know, your classic hero cracks, but not very good for fast routines, stuff like volleys. Not very good for flashes. It is good for the Cairo flash. But if you keep that in mind, I think it is a good beginning whip. I don't think that you'll pick up very many bad habits from it, but if you just want to get into the whip cracking sport, I don't expect you to keep this whip and just use this whip alone for 10 years. This is something you crack for a good 6 months and you get your basics down, and then you go on to bigger and better whips. It won't hurt my feelings if you use this whip, because I sure did. So anyways, that was the 7-foot 4-inch bullwhip. If you are interested in this whip and you need to see more pictures or would just like to contact me about any questions, ask me questions about this whip that I may not have covered, you can go to the CP Bullwhips Instagram page and comment on this, on a picture of this whip, and I'll respond from you from there. So anyways, thank you for watching.